Welcome back to the channel. This is part 16 to the road to becoming a Pokemon champion. Chapter 16, Charmander, the stray Pokemon. The group was making great progress to Vermilion City. It had been about 2 weeks since they left Cerulean City, and needless to say, they were ready to get back to a populated area. However, they were told they still had another week until they reached the city. Ash and Serena had battled a few hobby trainers along the way to help their Pokemon grow. Ash and Serena had made sure to use their newly acquired Bulbasaur and Oddish, respectively, to test out their battle strengths. Both Pokemon had proved to be very capable in battle. Ash and Serena were happy to have them as part of the team now. Oh, we are finally getting close to Vermilion City. It will be by the beach. I can't wait to get a nice tan, Misty commented as the group walked along the forest path. Right. The route we are on right now intersects with Route 24, which will take us straight into Vermilion City, Brock agreed. That's where I'm going to receive my 3rd gym badge, Ash declared. It was then the group noticed an enormous rock right in the middle of the path, casting a huge shadow. It wasn't the rock that got the group's attention. However, it was the Pokemon that was on top of the rock. It was a Charmander. Unlike Serena's Charmander, it appeared to be a male. Oh wow. A Charmander! Ash exclaimed. I remember when we were about to pick our first Pokemon at Professor Oak's lab, and I had really wanted to get a Charmander, but wasn't able to. Oh, you wanted to get the Charmander, Ash? Serena asked him nervously. Pikachu also gave its trainer a questioning look. Ash realized he had put his foot in his mouth and rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Ahehehe. I mean, I had wanted a Charmander to begin with, but I'm very happy with the way things turned out. Don't worry, Serena. If I could do it over again, I would always let you pick Charmander so I could get Pikachu, he said. Pikachu and Serena decided that was acceptable and turned their attention back to the Charmander on the rock. Well, Ash, this Charmander does appear to be wild, so why don't you try to capture it? Serena asked. Yeah, Ash agreed. He was just about to send out Pidgeotto, but Brock stopped him. Hold on, he said. Take a look at the flame on its tail. It looks really weak. I don't think battling it is the best idea at the moment. Ash looked at the Charmander again and saw the flame on its tail looked very small compared to normal. The Charmander was panting heavily and appeared to be very tired. I still have some medicine we made back at Melanie's cabin. I'll see if I can give it some, Brock continued. He pulled out a small bottle of medicine from his backpack and went up to Charmander. Hey there, Charmander. I got some medicine for you that might make you feel better, Brock said gently as he held the bottle for Charmander to take. Charmander stared at the bottle of medicine for a moment before quickly turning away. It didn't appear to trust these strangers. If it won't take medicine, I should try to capture anyway, so we can at least take it to a Pokemon Center, Ash decided. He then took out an empty Pokeball and threw it at the Charmander. The Pokemon saw the ball coming and immediately swung its fiery tail in a circular motion to knock back the Pokeball. The ball returned to Ash Ketchum's hands and he gave it a questioning look. I know this Charmander's weak, but it still seems strong enough to fight back. Maybe Pikachu should battle it, Ash suggested. Maybe my water Pokemon can help, Misty tried. Brock shook his head. I still don't think it's such a great idea. Try your Pokeball one more time, Ash, he told the raven-haired boy. Ash nodded his head and threw the Pokeball once more at Charmander. This time Charmander didn't fight back as it was sucked into the Pokeball. The group thought they had gotten the Pokemon, but it soon broke free from the Pokeball and glared at the group. This Pokemon seems to have a lot of courage. Do you think we should have one of our Pokemon talk to it? Ash asked. I know. We should have Chola talk to it, since it's a Charmander also, Serena said as she let Chola out of its Pokeball. Okay, Chola. I'd like you to climb on top of that rock and talk to the Charmander there, Serena told it. Charla nodded and then turned to look at the Pokemon. As soon as Charla saw the Charmander on top of the rock, it got hearts in its eyes and a goofy expression on its face. "Charla," it said dreamily as it began to climb the rock. "Charla, this is no time to make boyfriends," Serena said embarrassedly. Pikachu decided it should follow Charla up to the top of the rock to make sure they got the information they needed. Charla was the first to reach the rock and immediately began to converse with the other Charmander. It gave Charla a strange look before turning away in the other direction. Charla immediately got a crestfallen expression on its face and looked fit to cry. It was then Pikachu reached the top of the rock and told Charla to focus on the task. Pikachu then began to talk to the Charmander, and it seemed to receive Pikachu a little better as Pikachu wasn't trying to ask it on a date like Charla was. Once Pikachu was done, it and Charla climbed back down the rock and went to the humans. "So what's the story, guys?" Ash asked them. The two Pokemon then began to make various hand gestures and facial expressions to Misty and Brock's confusion. However, Ash and Serena were able to understand their Pokemon. "I see. This Pokemon is already owned by a trainer," Ash deduced. "And this trainer left Charmander here on this rock promising to come back for it," Serena finished. Both Pokemon nodded their heads to signal their trainers were correct. Brock sighed. "If this Charmander is already owned by another trainer, there is nothing we can do for it except hope the trainer comes back soon. Judging by this Charmander's tail, it's been waiting on this rock a long time. The trainer should definitely start taking better care of it once he or she comes back," he said with disapproval. "Yeah," Ash agreed. "According to Brock's map, there is a Pokemon Center near here. Let's rest there. We can check here later on to make sure its trainer came back." The group agreed to the plan as they made their way to the Pokemon Center. It was about 8 o'clock in the evening right now, and the group had just finished eating supper at the Pokemon Center. Nightfall had fallen by now, and a storm seemed to be coming on top of that. The group was really glad they were inside of the Pokemon Center, but they couldn't help but think about the Charmander they had encountered earlier. Ash and Brock, in particular, were worried. They were staring out the window and appeared to be deep in thought. "Hey, you two. I think Charmander is just fine. There is no way it would wait around on a rock this long," Misty told them, trying to cheer them up. Ash and Brock said nothing as they continued to stare out of the window. Charmander's trainer would surely have come for it by now. No decent human being would leave their Pokemon out in the rain like that, Serena tried. "I hope you're right," Ash mumbled. It was then that they overheard a group of teenage boys talking and laughing obnoxiously in another part of the Pokemon Center. One of the boys, who was wearing stylish clothes and had blue hair, had a bunch of Pokeballs set out on the table in front of him, with an arrogant smirk on his face. "Wow, Damien. That's an awesome collection of Pokemon you have there," one of the teenagers said. "Of course. I mean I am the greatest ever," the boy known as Damien laughed. Ash and Serena were strongly reminded of Gary Oak. "I don't have any time for weak, useless Pokemon. They can rot for all I care. That's why I got rid of my Charmander, that worthless pile of trash," Damien continued. The group immediately got a glare on their face as they overheard the boy. They weren't trying to eavesdrop, but this boy was so loud and obnoxious that they couldn't help it. They took back what they thought earlier about comparing him to Gary. This boy was a million times worse than Gary. At least Gary would never call a Pokemon worthless and get rid of it. "What a horrible attitude that boy has," Misty muttered as they watched Damien from afar. "What did you end up doing to that Charmander you got rid of?" one of the boys asked. "I left on some rock," Damien said carelessly. That immediately alarmed the group. Was this the trainer of the Charmander they came across earlier? "That thing is so stupid. It kept following me whenever I tried to get rid of it. It finally left me alone after I said I would come back for it. What a total loser," Damien bragged. Brock and Ash had enough. They went over to where the boy was seated, and Brock grabbed Damien by his collar and pulled him up, so they were eye level. "Go get your Pokemon," Brock ordered. "You're pretty stupid to mess with Damien. He will crush you," one of the teenagers warned, but Ashan. Brock ignored him. "How could you leave it like that? We happened to come across that Charmander earlier, and it was still waiting for you. You should consider yourself lucky to have such a loyal Pokemon," Ash said angrily. "Mind your own business," Damien growled. "The flame on your Charmander's tail was really low when we saw it earlier. It's now even raining. If a flame on a Charmander's tail goes out, it dies," Brock said through gritted teeth. "And I should care why?" Damien scoffed. "You're horrible," Ash yelled. "You should care, because you're its trainer." "Not anymore. I abandoned that loser. What happens to it now isn't my responsibility," Damien said coldly. "You make me sick to my stomach," Serena said as she and Misty came up behind Brock and Ash. "Choo-hoo," Pikachu growled, as its cheeks sparked. "Are you punks looking for a fight?" Damien asked and narrowed his eyes. He was about to reach for a Pokeball, but Nurse Joy stepped in. "That's it. Break it up, everyone. I will not allow you to use your Pokemon for personal battles. It's disrespectful to both the Pokemon and their trainer," Nurse Joy scolded. Damien broke free from Brock's grasp and gave the group one final glare. "Heh, if you are so worried about Charmander, you go get it." He then added with a smirk, "if it's even still alive." At that, Ash and Brock were about to pounce on him, but they were held back by Serena and Misty, respectively. "He isn't even worth it," Misty muttered as they watched Damien walk away with the other boys. "You four shouldn't get mixed up with those guys. They have a very bad reputation," Nurse Joy told the group. "I've never met someone so despicable in my life," Ash said as the girls released him and Brock. "I know Paul was bad, but this guy isn't even human." "Ash." Serena trailed as she put a hand on his shoulder to comfort him. "I'll be fine, Serena. I'm just really angry right now that there are actually people in the world like him," Ash said. "We need to hurry up and find that Charmander before it's too late. Let's go," Brock told the group as they rushed to get their rain gear. The rain was pouring very heavily as the group ran through the forest. They really hoped that the Charmander was where it was earlier, so they wouldn't have to search for it. "Oh, I'm getting soaked. The rain is so heavy. My raincoat isn't helping much," Misty moaned. "You could have just stayed at the Pokemon Center, you know," Serena said to Misty. "I've got to help a Pokemon in need," Misty said with a wink. The group knew where they were going, so it only took them about 10 minutes to get to where Charmander was from the Pokemon Center. Once the group reached the place, they gasped in horror at what they saw. Charmander was huddled over and doing its best to cover itself with a large leaf. It wasn't big enough to cover its whole self, however, so Charmander mainly had it covering its tail flame. It was very low. It wouldn't be too much longer until it was completely out. To make matters worse, a few Spearow had decided to attack and were pecking mercilessly at Charmander. "Pikachu. Thunder Shock," Ash ordered. Pikachu immediately let loose the attack and the electricity soared through the air, which effectively scared off the Spearow. The group then rushed over to Charmander. Brock and Ash took off their raincoats and placed them over Charmander. Brock's raincoat covered the main body, while Ash's covered the flame on its tail. Charmander didn't resist this time when they picked it up. The group then rushed back to the Pokemon Center as fast as they could. "Come on, Charmander. You can't let your flame go out," Ash mumbled to himself. The group soon arrived back to the Pokemon Center and burst through the doors panting heavily. "Is everything okay?" Nurse Joy asked as she came rushing to the group. "No, it isn't," Brock answered. "This Charmander needs help fast." Nurse Joy looked at Charmander and gasped. "There isn't much time," she said hurriedly as she took Charmander and rushed to the emergency room. "I sure hope it's not too late," Ash said worriedly. We've done all we can so far. We've just got to wait and trust in Nurse Joy, Serena told him. Right, Ash agreed as the group went over to sit down on the furniture in front of the emergency room. Damien happened to pass by at that time and saw the group. I hope you're happy, Brock muttered, as he gave Damien a glare. Your Pokemon is in critical condition because you don't care for it. Whatever. I'm about to get a good night's sleep, so don't bother me or you'll regret it. Damien shrugged and continued on his way. What a creep, Ash scowled as he clenched his fists, but forced himself to relax. He really wished he could teach this guy a lesson. What Misty had said earlier was correct. Damien just wasn't worth it. Ash had no choice but to wait and hope Charmander would get better. After several hours of waiting anxiously, Nurse Joy finally stepped out of the emergency room. The group didn't waste any time to go over to her. How is Charmander, Nurse Joy? Brock asked. Nurse Joy paused, but then smiled broadly. Charmander was able to pull through. It should be just fine by tomorrow morning, she said. That's great, Ash exclaimed. Nurse Joy nodded. Yes. Since this Charmander was abandoned by its trainer, I will happily look after it for a while. I will make sure to find it a good home. Oh, Nurse Joy. You are so kind. You are as beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside. Brock cried as he took her hands in his. The group's weight dropped. It seemed since Charmander was going to be okay, Brock had reverted back to his Nurse Joy syndrome. Oh. Hehehe. Thank you, Nurse Joy said nervously. Perhaps we can get together for breakfast tomorrow and point ya. Brock started, but didn't finish as Misty had reached out to drag him away by the ear. You're acting like a goofball, Brock. Control yourself, Misty said in aggravation. Brock said nothing as he was pulled along. He had never actually had someone drag him away like that before. It surprised him greatly. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were surprised as well. It looked like they could count on Misty to keep Brock under control. The next morning, the group had decided to check to see if Charmander was feeling any better. They were allowed by Nurse Joy to enter the emergency room, and what they saw shocked them. Charmander was indeed much healthier. The bright, burning flame on its tail proved that, but it seemed to be trying to escape the room. Charmander? Why are you trying to escape? Ash asked it in confusion. Charmander turned away from the window it was about to hop out of, and gave the group a guilty look. You were going back to the rock to wait for Damien, weren't you? Brock figured. Charmander nodded its head, and turned back towards the window. Charmander. I hate to tell you this, but I don't think Damien is coming back for you, Ash told it. Ash. Misty scolded. Charmander has the right to know the truth. Ash defended. It's natural that you still feel loyal to Damien. It's just we happened to hear him talking about you last night. It didn't sound like he had any intention of coming to get you. I just don't want you to go back to the rock and wind up sick again, Brock muttered softly. It's your decision to make, Charmander. Just keep in mind what we told you, Ash said again. Charmander hesitated for a little bit. It looked back towards the window, and then back at the group. It certainly knew the strangers in front of it cared. They had proven that much by saving its life last night. Charmander wished it could say the same of its current trainer or ex-trainer. It wasn't sure which. Charmander couldn't recall one time when Damien had said a kind word to it. He was always calling it weak, stupid, or pathetic when it would lose a battle. Even if Charmander would win a battle, Damien never told it that it did a good job. I think you are a great Pokemon, Charmander. Any trainer would be lucky to have you, Ash continued. Why don't you show us how powerful you are? That will show Damien. Pikachu then went over to Charmander and told it how Ash was really sincere with the things he said. Charmander took one last look at the window before turning around and nodding towards the group. Everyone was now in front of the Pokemon Center. They had set up various targets, both still and moving ones for Charmander's accuracy. Then they set up several dummies to test Charmander's strength. Once they were done, Ash smiled at the Pokemon. Charla also happened to be watching at the moment, so it could learn from this Charmander. This will prove that you are just as powerful a Pokemon as any, Ash told it. Don't let anyone tell you different. Charmander nodded as it prepared to aim at the various targets. Can you use Flamethrower and Ember? Ash asked the Pokemon, to which it nodded in response. I would like Charla to see this as well, Serena said as she sent out her Pokemon. Alright, Charmander. Go ahead when you're ready, Ash told it. Charmander nodded and used various fire attacks to destroy the targets. It had perfect accuracy on both the moving and non-moving ones. Charla saw this and got hearts in its eyes again. This Charmander was so strong and cute too. It looks like Charla has a little crush on that Charmander, Misty whispered to Brock. Just like its trainer has a crush on Ash, Brock whispered back, but wasn't heard by Ash or Serena. Let's see your strength next, Charmander, Ash said. Use any attack you can, and destroy those dummies. Charmander obeyed and used a barrage of attacks on the dummies, ranging from fire attacks to metal, claws and scratch attacks. It wasn't long before all of the dummies were in pieces. That was perfect, Charmander, Ash praised. You were super, Charmander, Brock added. We knew you were a powerful Pokemon. Don't ever forget that. Charla went over to congratulate the Charmander as well, with a small blush on its face. Charmander rubbed the back of its neck nervously and blushed as well. Hey, Charmander. If you'd like, you can come along with us. I'd love to have a great Pokemon like you, Ash suggested. You would be a great trainer for Charmander, Ash. You did keep the flame on its tail lit while we were running through the rain, after all, Brock agreed. Charmander seemed to be thinking it over, but before it could give its answer, everyone heard a voice behind them. Hey there, Charmander. I've been looking for you, the voice said. They spun around to find none other than Damien standing there, who surprisingly had a smile on his face. It looked forced to the group, however. What do you want, Damien? Brock asked in an unfriendly tone. I'm here to get Charmander back just like I promised, Damien replied. The group let out collective gasp. What? They all exclaimed. It's true. Let's go, Charmander, Damien said. Hold on a second. What is with the sudden change? Last night you didn't even care if Charmander died, Ash asked suspiciously. That was before I saw what it could do this morning. I was watching you guys from the window of the Pokemon Center. Charmander is a lot better than I thought, so I will be taking it back now, Damien replied. So you're only taking it back because you think it's strong now and not because you're sorry for what you did? Ash exclaimed in disbelief. That's right. I'm glad I did leave it on that rock too. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have ran into you guys who helped train it for me, so I don't have to, Damien confirmed. At this, Charmander hung its head in sadness. You see, Charmander. This guy only wants you so he can win battles. He doesn't care about your well-being at all. Damien just freely admitted that he left you to die last night, Brock told it. You aren't trying to keep me from getting back my Pokemon, are you? Damien asked dangerously, now losing the smile on his face. You don't deserve a great Pokemon like Charmander, Ash shouted. Charmander is my Pokemon. I'm the one who caught it. You can't keep it from me, Damien retorted. It's not your Pokemon anymore, since you abandoned it, Ash yelled. I'm now coming back for it. If you even think about taking what's mine from me, I'll have you arrested for Pokemon thievery, Damien argued. We could have you arrested for Pokemon abuse in return, Ash fired back. Heh. It seems the only way we are going to settle this is through a Pokemon battle. If I win, I keep Charmander. If you win, you keep it, Damien said as he pulled out a Pokeball. You're on. Ash yelled with determination. Machoke. I choose you. Damien hollered as he sent out a large purple muscular Pokemon. Whoa. A Machoke, Ash muttered as he and Serena pulled out their Pokédexes. Machoke. The superpower Pokemon and the evolved form of Machop. Machoke is so strong it must wear a power-safe belt to control itself, the Pokédex is piped up. So it's a fighting type. I know who to use against it, Ash said. He was just about to reach for Pidgeotto's Pokeball, but to his and everyone else's surprise, Charmander stepped out. In front of Ash. You want to battle Damien, Charmander? Ash asked in confusion. Char, it confirmed and nodded its head. You're battling against me? Your own trainer? I'll make you regret that decision. Damien growled menacingly. Come on, Ash. Beat this creep. Serena yelled. Charmander. Chola agreed. Brock then walked between Ash and Damien. I'll be the judge. This is a battle for ownership of Charmander. There will be no time limit. Begin, he shouted. Machoke. Use Karate Chop. Damien called. Quick, Charmander. Smoke a screen. Ash countered. Charmander let loose a lot of smoke from its mouth, so Machoke couldn't see anything. Before it knew what hit it, Machoke felt a painful slap go across its face. Charmander had slapped it with its fiery tail. Use foresight to locate Charmander. Damien ordered. Machoke's eyes began to glow, so it could now see Charmander inside the smoker screen. Use Flamethrower, Charmander. Ash ordered. Charmander was about to run up to get a close range attack, but Damien was ready. Use Vital Throw, Machoke, he yelled. Charmander used Flamethrower, which caused Machoke to yell in pain, but it grabbed Charmander before it could get away. It then hurled Charmander into the ground as hard as it could. The group cringed as they saw Charmander hit the grass at high speed. That must have really hurt. Can you stand, Charmander? Ash asked worriedly. Charmander nodded and slowly got back up to its feet. Use Submission. Damien ordered. Machoke then grabbed Charmander and got in a submission hold, causing Charmander to yell out in pain and struggle to break free, but Machoke was too strong. Come on, activate, Ash said to himself. If what Charla has taught him in the past was true, Charmander's special ability, Blaze, should take effect soon. Then he could win. Machoke continued to incapacitate Charmander. Charmander was trying to shoot various embers and flamethrowers at Machoke, but they kept missing due to the angle it was at. It really didn't want to go back to this cruel trainer, so it had to win. Why isn't it activating? Ash thought worriedly. Does this Charmander have that ability? Everyone else in the group seemed to be wondering the same thing as they stared worriedly at Charmander. At this rate, Charmander was in big trouble. Then to Ash's great relief, Charmander's tail flame increased substantially. Machoke saw this and dropped Charmander onto the ground as its tail was beginning to burn it. Oh no. Damien shouted in horror. Oh yes. Ash shouted back. Charmander. Use Flamethrower. Charmander then took a deep breath and let out a massive burst of fire. It completely engulfed Machoke and even burned Damien as well. Machoke then fell to the ground in defeat, charred completely black and let out a puff of smoke. Machoke is unable to battle. Charmander is the winner. Brock said happily. You did it, Charmander. Ash praised as he and Pikachu ran up to it to give it a high five. Charla said as it watched Charmander with a blush on its face. That Charmander was so strong. Oh yeah. Damien suddenly called out. I've decided to take Charmander back regardless if I won or lost, so hand it over. No way. I won, and Charmander wants to stay with me. Ash told him with a glare. Who cares? Damien retorted hotly as he pulled out another Pokeball. Ash beat you fair and square, you jerk. Don't cheat. Serena yelled at him. No one asked you, you slut. Damien hollered back. That did it. Ash had really had enough of this guy. Ash could honestly say that Damien was the first person he truly hated. The way he acted. How he treated Charmander like garbage and left it die. How he thought of Pokemon as nothing but tools used for battle. Now, to top it off, he just completely insulted Serena. He had gone too far. Without warning, Ash ran up to Damien and punched him as hard as he could right in the middle of the face. Damien was knocked off his feet and hit ground hard. He then felt around his face. His nose was bleeding profusely and was badly swollen. It wasn't broken, but it still hurt. The group, especially Serena, looked at Ash in surprise. They had never seen Ash lose his cool like that before. Damien stared up in hatred at Ash and jumped to his feet. "You hurt me, you little piece of crap. I swear you haven't seen the last of me. I'll make you pay one of these days," he shouted. He then turned around and ran off. Ash glared back until Damien was completely out of view. He then took a deep breath and let out a sigh. He turned back around to see all of his friends staring at him. "Sorry about that." It's just when Damien called Serena now what he called her, something inside of me just snapped. "I don't think I've ever been that angry in my entire life," Ash said as he hung his head. Brock, Misty, Pikachu, and Charmander came up to him. "Hey, Ash. It's okay. To tell you the truth, I would have done the same thing if he had insulted someone I was close to." "He deserved it," Brock reassured him. "He really had it coming," Misty added. Ash then looked at Pikachu and Charmander next. They both made gestures that they were going to attack Damien themselves if Ash hadn't acted first. He then saw Serena going toward him. "Ash. Thanks for standing up for me like that," Serena said gratefully. "There aren't any thanks necessary," Ash told her. "I'm not going to let some jerk trash talk you like that." What he said was completely uncalled for and unacceptable. Serena blushed. "I guess I can always count on you to be there for me, in that case." To her surprise, Ash turned a little red in return. "Of course. I'll never let you down. You can always count on me," he said firmly despite his redness. "AWW. Hee hee, you two are so close. I'm almost jealous," Misty giggled. "Indeed," Brock said while nodding. He then winked at Ash. "Remember what I told you in the battle chateau? KN knock it off guys," Ash mumbled as he turned away. He hadn't recalled ever being embarrassed like this around Serena before. "Oh yeah. Don't forget. We have to officially welcome Charmander to the team," Serena reminded Ash, trying to change the subject. "Definitely. Welcome to the group, Charmander," Ash said happily as he smiled down at it and pulled out a spare Pokeball. "Char," it replied enthusiastically and leaped into Ash's Pokeball to allow itself to be captured. Ash then stared at the Pokeball in his hands. "Don't you worry, Charmander. I'll make sure to treat you how you deserve to be treated," he told it. Charla then came up to Ash and signaled it wanted Ash to release Charmander from the Pokeball. Ash did so, and once Charmander was out, Charla immediately went up to it and whispered something in its ear. Nobody knew what it was saying, but Ash's Charmander got a nervous expression on its face while Charla blushed. "Like Pokemon, like trainers," Brock whispered to Misty, who nodded in response. "Well, guys, what are we waiting for? Vermilion City is just a few days away," Ash said enthusiastically. "Alright. Let's go." Serena agreed. Ash and Serena, followed by Pikachu, Charla, and Charmander, took off running down the path. "Those guys are too enthusiastic," Misty said as she began running with Brock to catch up. "Hey. It gets us to our destinations faster," Brock shrugged. Unbeknownst to them, Damien hadn't completely left yet. He was hiding behind the trees as he watched the group run by down the path. He had a tissue pressed up against his nose to stop the bleeding. "How dare those little punks humiliate me and take Charmander," he mumbled to himself. We'll meet again. They'll be sorry they ever cross me. Damien then turned to go off his own way, but bumped into two taller people. Hey. Watch where you're going. Damien snarled as he took in the two people's appearances. One was a man with blue hair, and the other was a woman with red hair. They both wore white uniforms with a huge red R in the middle. There was also a Meowth standing next to them. Hello. My name is Jesse, that's James, and that's Meowth. We happened to see your confrontation with those kids just now, Jessie began as she leered at Damien. It turns out we hate them, just as much as you do. You also seem to be a powerful trainer. If you're interested, we have a proposition for you. James smiled evilly.